If you're already subscribed, welcome back, my darling. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do subscribe. And while you're down there, yeah, hitting that subscribe button, because I know you will. I trust you will. Go ahead and turn your notifications on too, so you can become a part of the Morgan Shay Notify gang. First thing I want to get out of the way is it's late. I look a wreck. I look an actual wreck. Like, my makeup is like on its last leg. My hair is in a mind of its own. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm in Chris's big hoodie. The only thing left that looks cute are my earrings, and that's literally it. But I wanted to do this story time because I did the first part of this. Let's see, when did I actually upload this video? Gosh, this is an oldie. Okay, so this was uploaded on August 25th. It's titled, Worst Neighbor Ever, Broke Into Our House, Watched Us Sleep, Story Time. I'm going to have it linked up in the cards right now so that you can go watch it, because if you haven't watched that, that's like a preview to this, okay? That's like the bulk of the story, and I'm going to tell like a couple of other things that happen. We're going to use the same names. We're going to call my roommate Lindsay, and we're going to call the neighbor Squirrel. Again, it is imperative that you watch that story as well, because there's going to be some information that I'm going to leave out, because I'm going to assume that you watch the story time, okay? So basically, we have this neighbor, all right? And for the longest, like, she would do inappropriate shit and like out-of-pocket shit all of the time. And me and Lindsay were like on two different spectrums. I was the one, it was like bad cop, nice cop type deal. Good cop, bad cop. Like, Lindsay, and like from the jump, like, everybody said, be stern with her. Like, put your foot down. And Lindsay would. Lindsay did not give a damn. Me, on the other hand, I gave a damn. Like, I felt so bad, and I felt like, you know, that maybe there was something wrong with her, even though people would say, no, she literally does this for attention, and like, she feels like it's just like okay. And another thing that I didn't mention in that story time, which again, this was when I was still pretty new on my channel, so I wasn't as comfortable in front of the camera then as I am now. So let me know if you want me to retell the story, because I left a lot out in that story time, and that's why I'm kind of going back now and telling some parts out of my older stories that I missed that are important. But if you want me to retell the story with like my energy comfortable in front of the camera like I am now, please let me know down in the comment section below, and I will retell that story to you guys. But she would do like out-of-pocket shit all the time, and she would do this to all of the neighbors. And like I mentioned in the story time, when you pulled onto our road, okay, our house was here. In front of us, there was a couple our age that lived there, a husband and wife. You go like down the road a little bit, down a hill, and there was an older couple that lived there. And she was like way back behind us. So, also preface, this was in a really shady part of town. Okay, like the worst part of Knoxville that you can live in. Okay, so that's also important, because that is why we would like spaz a lot of times when she would do this shit, because we would think that like we were getting broken into, or like some serious shit was about to go down. We did not think that it was Squirrel. Okay, like, up until a certain point. And then after a certain amount of time, we were like, oh, it's Squirrel. We're just going to pick up probably about a month or so after she had like broke into our house when me and Lindsay were out of town. And not much long before we caught her watching us sleep. But this one in particular day, our neighbor across the street, the wife, and me and Lindsay were going to go to Chattanooga. Okay, we were going shopping in Chattanooga. It was, I'll never forget it, it was around Black Friday. We were going shopping. And this is a lot of time when Squirrel would like strike. Like, this is when Squirrel would do something that she wasn't supposed to be doing. Well, remember that the neighbor across the street, her husband is still home. We probably are in Chattanooga for maybe like an hour, and we get a call from the neighbor's husband. And he was like, hey, do you all have somebody over at your house? we're like, no. And he's like, I didn't think so. Squirrels in your house. And I was like, are you sure that it's squirrel? Like, I was always the one to be like, are you sure, you know? And Lindsay's like, you know it's her. You know it's her. So I ended up going back home. And of course, he calls the police. And the landlord would get called because it's not our property. So he would get called every single time. And like I mentioned in the last story time, again, it's up in the cards. The landlord, like, knows her family because, like, she grew up in that house and her mom grew up in that house. And our landlord grew up in our house. So, like, they know one another. So he would always contact her parents. And like I also mentioned in the last story time is like, her parents like didn't care. Like literally they dropped this girl off in this house and like it wasn't their problem type thing. Anyways, we end up getting home. She was trying to act like she was our other roommate. When the police got there, they were like, okay, well, we need a lease. We need something, whatever. And finally, by the time the landlord got there, he was like, you know, what's she done now? And the officer was like, does she not live here? And our landlord was like, no, she lives in the house behind here. She does this shit for attention. And the officer was like confused. So this was like the first and only time that an officer was like doing his job. You know what I'm saying? Like, trying to figure out, like, why would someone think that this was okay? They basically got everybody kind of separated, and they're asking them questions. So when me and Lindsay get there with the neighbor across the street, we kind of walk over, and we're like, yeah, we're the ones that live here, da-da-da. The officer is like, so I've been going through, and I've been talking to the landlord and everybody, and it looks like a lot of things have happened here. And remember, guys, this is before we caught her watching us sleep. So we go through everything with this officer. We explain everything. And guys, there was so much, like so many times. So during this time, I was having a lot of issues with my stalker. So I was very on edge anyways, and just not in a good mental headspace. And I explained this to the officer. I'm like, look, I have a stalker already. Like, I'm just not in a good mental headspace for this. Like, it's making me super uncomfortable, and I don't know what she's capable of. People say nothing's wrong with her, but I just don't know why someone would continue to do things like this when we've made it clear that it's not okay, that it's unwanted. We're at a loss. And I was already ready to move. My stalker had figured out where I lived, of course, like, not even a month living there. You know, he had been driving by our house. Like, just so much was going on. And her adding this to it, like, I was over it. When her parents got there, this was a time when me and her mom get into it. Like, me and her mom are in an argument. Like, I'm like, look, you need to figure this shit out. There is obviously something wrong with your daughter. You're not doing anything at all to figure this shit out. I am being haunted basically by her. She will not leave us alone. She's breaking into our home. She's invading our privacy. And remember, this is before we woke up to her watching us sleep. I basically tell the landlord, I'm like, look, if nothing can be done here, like, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not renewing the lease. I'm leaving because I can't stand this anymore. And he was like, you all aren't the only people that have left because of her. He was like, I can't afford for her to live here anymore. And him and the parents get into it like it was, oh my God, you guys, it gives me a headache even thinking back to this day because it was such bullshit. All of this conversating, all of this talk, all these people having all these conversations for nothing to happen. Nothing. Literally nothing. She went to jail. She was gone a couple of days, came back. That was literally how it would always be. She gets back out, and one day I'm getting out. I'm walking out to the car to go to work, and she walks up behind me, you guys. And like I've told you guys before, and just told you guys earlier in this video, my stalker was extremely active in my life at this point. He had been driving by my house and calling me on Facebook, like, oh my God, just so much. And she's walking up behind me, and there was a bunch of trees in the front yard of this house. And she stepped on a leaf, and I heard her. And I turned around, and I had mace on my keychain. I sprayed mace in her eyes. Y'all, this bitch called the police on me, okay? I go inside. I get Lindsay. I'm like squirrel. I was walking up behind me when I was going to get in the car this morning. Like, can you all even imagine calling your work? Yeah, I had to call my work because I was obviously going to be late to work. And I'm like, hey, my neighbor, which thankfully the people I worked with knew all about all this shit because I had been late to work so many times in the past because of this shit. So I called them and I'm like, hey, yeah, my neighbor decided to sneak up behind me this morning and I sprayed mace in her eyes, and so she's called the police on me. My boss is literally like, oh my God, just get here whenever, you know, whatever. And he's like, you need to move. I'm like, literally. Lindsay comes outside. I'm like a nervous wreck because I genuinely, like, I remember when I heard the leaves crunch, like I could feel somebody behind me. But it was almost like one of those things like, it just can't be true. Like, because I thought it was my stalker. I was terrified. So the police get there and they tell her, they're like, you were on her property. Like, what were you, why didn't you make your presence known? And she was like, well, we were leaving together. I was like, no, we weren't. Like, I had had enough. I was like, no, we weren't, you crazy bitch. And that's exactly what I said. I'm not even going to lie. She scared the absolute shit out of me. I was over it. I was over it. And I'll always be honest with you guys. I did say that. I said, no, we weren't, you crazy bitch. I was going to work. I'm over you. That's exactly what I said. And a week later is when we woke up to her watching us sleep. And again, that story time is linked up in the cards. And like I also said in that last story time, is that Squirrel has continuously, to me and Lindsay both, has continuously harassed us over social media ever since. And this is my final plea to Squirrel. Please leave me alone. Please quit contacting me. I have nothing that I need to say to you. You know, I accepted your apology, you know, years ago when you first reached out to me. I accepted your apology. There's nothing more to talk about. If not, I will be moving forward with further action. But yeah, you guys, there's the story time, the second part, if you will, of the worst neighbor ever who still to this day will not leave me alone. Again, if you guys want me to tell the part one of this story time back over, let me know down in the comment section. Also, I do have a big story coming from this that has to do with my stalker when I was living in this house. Those, like I said, guys, those just take so much out of me because I had so much anxiety during that time. And it's not like one of those like trendy anxiety. No, like, bitch, I was losing hair. I was like not eating. Like, it was fucking with my life. Like, for real. And so I have a story like that coming. Just please be patient with me. I mentioned it on social media, and all of y'all over there on social media have been like, bitch, when's that story coming? It's coming. It takes a lot out of me, and I just want to be perfect, or as close to perfect as I can be up in my head, okay? But yeah, and yeah, you guys, be sure that you do subscribe before you leave. Be sure that you are following me on social media. It is always linked down below. And until next time, bye guys. This cup though, I'm so into this cup.